think we are live. What's up, people? Hello, hello. I think I came up with a use for your woodworking, Kevin.
My what?
Your woodworking.
My woodworking?
Your woodworking.
I've been woodworking?
You've been doing woodworking, and you're getting quite good. I saw the sphere that you made. You've been doing woodworking. Oh, there we go. You're getting quite good. I saw the sphere that you made. Here we go. So there we go. That was our sound check. All right. So I'm gonna show off your handiwork.
Oh, it's not done yet, though.
It's done enough for my purposes.
That's not a sphere.
No, this is the original piece of woodworking. I mean, just drink that in right there. We should make that somehow. This should make this like part of our logo or something, just like a spinning
Weird.
pyramid.
It's weird.
How cool is that?
I don't know.
So this is what I was talking about yesterday. This is the triangle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the pyramid in this case.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a good illustration of the point, right? That everyone always looks at the point, right? Like you can imagine, I was mixing my metaphors. Let's see if I'm still holding it. Yeah, mixing my metaphors. You know, the pyramid with the iceberg, right? And let's say we'll just pretend this. Hold on, this is water. This is like the surface.
Perforate that paper.
I mean, you got to do something. This is right, and you only see this little tip, right? But there's what sinks the ship, Kevin?
The filling of
the widest part underneath the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think like, oh, if I'm on my ship, I'm a captain, and I'm just gonna sail by because this thing is like small.
Your sides are still gonna get scraped.
That's how
Titanic.
that's how you get sunk,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't. So, but this, right? It could be. You can extend that to everyone goes to the tournament, right? And they compete, and everyone. This is what everyone sees. Everyone gets their match, right? You go and whatever. But what sinks the person is not what's up here. It's not this little bit of the performance at the tournament or whatever, that you can make this applicable to anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not this that wins or loses. It's not the work that you did in this little bit. It's all that. That's what wins or loses. That's what sinks. If this is small, if all you got is this, you're probably going to lose.
You know what I like about this metaphor?
It's awesome.
Well, the iceberg metaphor is nice, but what I like about this and the process of building it, what I noticed that every layer that I wanted to add, it would take more time. And the more layers that I would add, the amount of time it would take to make each layer would be exponential.
Because so why is that?
Because for every layer, you have to add an extra whole ring in addition to the ones that you...
Are you working down or are you working up?
Working down.
So you're doing this.
Basically.
Yeah.
So for every additional layer that you want, each layer is going to take more work the more layers you add. So it gets to a point where you can only build so much. Like it's only physically possible to...
The other thing I like about this, is that it's like a wedge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the longer you work on it, the better your wedge.
Wedges are very popular in jiu-jitsu.
In jiu-jitsu, it's all about the wedge, right? And the lever,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I like this. When I think of this, I thought of it as when I was practicing and I would go to trial. And everyone thinks of the trial, you think like a good lawyer is a courtroom lawyer is the guy or the woman who is able to, go to court and argue the case, and they sound very polished or what have you. But the cases are not won or lost at the trial, almost ever. At least in a civil case, probably in a criminal case too. I didn't practice too much criminal cases, at least not in the trial level. But the cases are won down here. They're won in the beginning. They're won in what they call discovery, which is when you're looking at the evidence and you're gathering all the evidence, you're making all your motions, you're discovering motions, figuring out the case, and then everything works its way up to this, to this point. But all this work is necessary. The other thing I was thinking about this, which I thought was cool, is you could take this as in 2 dimensions, you could think of this as a y and x axis. And that if, you look at the x as time, right? And you look at y as skill, or maybe this is the achievement that you want, this is the goal, right? If you spread this out, if you think of a bigger pyramid, you know, you kind of think of like, well, how long will it take me to get up to this level, right? Like maybe you want to go compete at the world championships, or maybe you just want to go to a tournament and compete and win in a tournament. You want to place, right? Well, you got to put that time in. If you try to get to the peak and you don't give yourself enough time, it's almost impossible, right? It's just like a sheer cliff, right? It's like that, right? I mean, that's more or less 90 degrees. So as you give yourself more time, you get a better, you have a longer runway to get up to the top, which is why when you have, if you listen to anybody at, you know, I think at anything, really, maybe not anything, but I was listening to a judo podcast, Chuck Jefferson's judo podcast, which is awesome, by the way, but, you know, he interviews a lot of people who have been in judo forever, and the common theme throughout is like, they started when they were 5. And, you know, by the time they get to the World Championships or the Olympics, you know, they're 25. They've been at it for 20 years, competing, training, learning, conditioning themselves, the whole thing. It takes time to get up to here. And the earlier you start, the better, because you're young and you're growing, and as opposed to me. Like, if I want to go to the Olympics, it doesn't matter how many years you give me. I'm just gonna break down, even if I could get there, which I couldn't, right? I couldn't qualify. But when you're young, so I was thinking like the Rotolo brothers, right? They're like 17, I don't know how old they are, 12? I mean, what are they?
17 now.
They're 17. It's not like they just like, poof, became these great champions. I mean, they started when they were like 5, and they worked their way up over the years. They had that long X, and now they're
But they're also
at the
like,
tippy top.
they're also getting very good fast. So their overall pyramid is just huge.
Well, but so here's the other variable, right? Unfortunately, it's not just how hard do I work. It's also how focused am I on my goal, right? And so if you don't have a goal, like if you're not working towards anything, like this is just kind of meaningless in a way, right? If I just go to jiu-jitsu or I just lift some weights and I don't really have a goal, I mean, you're going to get stronger, you'll get better at jiu-jitsu, but like that upward trajectory isn't, because that's not your goal.
That brings, do you have the other woodwork?
I don't have the spear with me. The spear's over there.
Alright, so,
What I was also going to say about the Rotolo twins is that it also matters who your instructors are, who your coaches are, right? I mean, if I take 2 kids at 10 years old and I just have one kid go to just regular jiu-jitsu class, just at a regular school somewhere, then I say, okay, we're just going to check in on you in 10 years, we'll see where you are, right? They'll probably be pretty good at jiu-jitsu,
yeah.
but if you take another 10-year-old, or the same 10-year-old theoretically, and you put him in, Andre Galvao is his coach now, or Rafa Mendes, and you put them in that environment where not only do you have a Hall of Famer giving you, teaching you and coaching you, but you also have an environment filled with champions who are all focused on kind of one goal, excellence at jiu-jitsu, like proving your excellence at jiu-jitsu through competition. That kid is probably going to be a total monster, assuming all things being equal, right? Like if there's a toxic or kind of like a corrosive environment where, it's not a supportive environment, then that's not going to work out over the long term. So there's also other variables to it, right? And just assuming that the kids can stick with it and are motivated to keep training jiu-jitsu, the kid that gets the better coaching and better training is going to be better, right, over time.
Where do you think the pinnacle of jiu-jitsu is, though? Like, do you think it's
Puerto Rico now, baby.
Do you think it's possible to like achieve perfection in the art?
No, never. The other thing is, look, here's the other thing that I wanted to, just while we're talking about goals, like set a goal. Set a goal. Like you should have a purpose, right? Now it could just be, right? Like you could say like, I want to be a world champion, but set a realistic goal, right? Like maybe if you're 15 or 16 years old and you want to put in the time, you could become that's probably enough of a runway.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 15, 16 years old in judo and you think you're going to go to the Olympics, you're probably you missed the train. But in jiu-jitsu, you could probably be 15, 14, 13, maybe not anymore.
So can I put that?
But set the goal, right? Like, so here's what I was going to tie it back into the end. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Set your goal. Set a goal that you're going to work toward. It could be anything. It could be anything, Kevin. Set a goal. What's your purpose? What is your purpose of jiu-jitsu?
Let me submit a counter argument.
No.
This is the argument of the sphere. Right? Alright, so
That's pretty impressive. I want to get the people at home to check out this sphere, because this is pretty good. Did you use some sort of tool?
no, it's
First off, it's super smooth, right? Oh, can you see that?
so let me so if we're
Look
talking
at
about
that.
woodworking
That's pretty
metaphors
cool.
with spheres.
Look at that.
Let me
What's this little bit right here?
I dropped it. So the sphere, right? I've had this metaphor for jiu-jitsu for a long time, and it started as two-dimensional. And the way I've thought about jiu-jitsu is starting with a square piece of paper, and with only straight cuts, cutting out a circle. Right? And that's what I did with this, right? I started with a cubic block of wood, and the goal is to make a sphere. And the thing with the process of turning a square into a sphere, especially with the idea of only using straight cuts, is you can do it, I can continuously work on this, and no matter what, provided that I still work on it with my hands, it's gonna get more spherical. It's gonna get more and more spherical the more I work. It'll get smaller, it'll get more and more round, just as the process goes on. But no matter what I do, it will never be a perfect sphere.
No.
And if
that's not true.
No, if my goal is to make a perfect sphere, it will never happen and I will never be satisfied. So what you need to do is you need to enjoy the process of making the sphere. And if you do not enjoy the process of making the sphere, you're not going to bother taking the time to make it.
All right. Enjoy the process. I like that.
It's very important
I concur.
because your game
That's not a counter argument.
your game will never be perfect. That's just the nature of jiu-jitsu. Because
I'm not saying that things have to be perfect. I'm saying you should set a goal.
But the goal, I think, should be
Even if your goal is to enjoy the process,
enjoy jiu-jitsu.
Then that is a goal. But it's kind of a nebulous goal.
It's important to, while you have very concrete goals, win this tournament, get good at this technique.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying win a tournament. That could be a goal.
It's a good goal.
That could be a goal.
It's a good
but
goal.
I'm saying more along the lines of there was a guy who just got his black belt at Enzo's, and 13 years, right? It took him 13 years to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And his goal may have just been, I don't know him personally, but his goal may have just been I want to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu one day.
But then what?
That is to me, that's fine, right? Because you can actually just decide, these are the things I need to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? There are certain parameters that I think most people, at least things that you can do, even though people will differ widely about how they think of or what they consider to be a black belt. I think everyone could agree, and this goes to your process point of, these are the things that someone needs to do to become a black belt or become good at jiu-jitsu, right? And those aren't necessarily the same things, but you could say I'm going to go to class as many times as I possibly can during the week, right? I'm going to eat a certain way, I'm going to sleep a certain way. My schedule, even if I'm a professional or I have kids or whatever it is, a family, I can still do things in a way that will increase the likelihood of me actually getting my black belt one day. And I think we can all agree on the kind of the work that needs to go into it, right? And the time that needs to go into it. It may not be quick, but at some point people, I think, will agree they recognize the dedication and the sacrifice or the commitment that is required. And it's different for different people, but I think you can see it. It's a common thing that you can see in a lot of the people that get the black belt, right? It's not Taekwondo where you show up.
But if I'm just worried that if the goal is to become a black belt, then during the process of getting the black belt, what if I become dissatisfied because I'm still not a black belt during the entire time? And then when I get the black belt, great, I have this intense feeling of euphoria, and then what?
Well, it's one of those things where just because you set a goal doesn't mean that you can't change your goal, right? It's not written in stone. You may at some point decide, I want to do something else. And that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but as long as you're setting a new goal. I think that's actually healthy as opposed to just kind of floating along, not doing anything.
What is the goal of setting goals? Is the goal of setting goals just to do stuff? Because not setting goals is bad? Is there a overarching goal of the goals? like the universal goal of goals?
I think,
Why do the tournament? Why?
I mean,
Why
because it's
love the
fun.
technique?
It should be fun, right? You should enjoy it. This is a hobby.
Do you think that like directionless training is less satisfying than directioned goal-focused?
I think over time it can be, right? If you don't have a focus, then why you're doing things could be, I think it goes to, I mean, everybody's different, and some people need more concrete and more regular goals that they can aim for, right? But I think the key is to stay motivated. Why am I doing this? And that goes to the purpose.
Why do people?
What
do
is your
stuff?
purpose?
Why do people do stuff?
I mean, jiu-jitsu, you have a couple of common things, reasons why people do jiu-jitsu. Some people do it for, they want to be fit, they want to be able to defend themselves, right? They want to feel empowered. They want to win medals. Some do, right? Some people, that's really what motivates them.
I always liked jujitsu because, well, it started as a way to spend time with family, and then it was a way to spend time with friends, and then it was a way to meet new people.
Some people do it for a social reason, right?
Creative expression.
Some people do it for their, it's like a therapy. It's relaxing for them. They feel some solace from the world in jiu-jitsu, right? Some people have a mixture. I think most people have a mixture of both, or all, or some, right? But I think you should be true to your purpose. Like if you come to jiu-jitsu because you enjoy the social aspect of it, then training like it's like just self-defense all the time, or training for competition all the time may not be your goal.
That doesn't make sense.
Why not?
If you're training jiu-jitsu...
Maybe I just like to hang out with people.
Yeah, but if you're going to show up to a jiu-jitsu academy for the social thing, how do you rise in the social hierarchy in jiu-jitsu?
I didn't say anything about social hierarchy. I'm just saying, like, maybe I like to come in and be part of this community. I don't want to be part. I don't want to be the queen bee of it, or whatever. I just want to have fun.
But people in this community tend to value hard work,
Not all of them, certainly not.
cooperation.
Certainly not.
I feel like this small community that we have does.
I don't value hard work. I don't know where you got that.
Like I would rather have a person who shows up and trains super hard to be part of my community.
Well, because that aligns with your values. But so what I'm saying is, from whatever the person is, that whoever the student is, that they should be true to like what their purpose is, right? Like there's no point in me going to a jiu-jitsu school and doing MMA, right? I don't want to be an MMA fighter, right? So why am I doing training in MMA?
But aren't there overarching values in the jiu-jitsu community that if one were to engage in or adopt for their own identity and ideals, that they would then have a better connection and entry into that community? Like if jiu-jitsu likes hard work, if I want friends who are doing jiu-jitsu, I should work hard. That's in my best interest. It's just because, it is in their best interest, but I want to be part of their group, right? So I should work hard too. Or maybe someone who speaks truthfully is highly valued in that group. So then I should be a kind of person who speaks truthfully.
Well, I don't know that you need to totally adapt yourself to whatever the people. I think people enjoy the camaraderie, or they enjoy the atmosphere, or they enjoy whatever it is. If that's what they really enjoy, then they should focus on that and doing those things that give them enjoyment. I'm just using the social as an example, but.
I don't know,
But I'm just saying, if I go to an MMA, if I'm training, right, like I'm trying to be an MMA fighter, but I don't enjoy doing anything related to MMA, then that is silly.
It's a weird group to try and be a part of.
Oh, but maybe I just want to do jiu-jitsu because I want to do self-defense. I want to learn how to defend myself in a fight.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, doing MMA, or going to a school and doing MMA doesn't make a lot of sense to my goal.
Yes.
right?
So you have to find a group of like-minded
If-
people, right?
If I have kids and my kids really want to do, sport jujitsu, then signing them up for a school that doesn't do that would be counterproductive. Right? Doesn't make any sense. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is set your own goals. Like, you don't have to compete or satisfy anybody else. You just say, like, what is my goal? And then you say every day, like, am I meeting my goal? Like, is this my purpose in doing this thing that I do all the time?
Self-improvement.
It's the old idea of, like, I'm not competing. I mean, you are competing in a way in jiu-jitsu against another person, but
More like your past self.
it's, or your future self, right?
Yeah. My future self is a bitch.
Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to think of it, or the right way per se, the only right way, just a way. Ugh. I mean, it would be ridiculous to compare myself to like a 22-year-old, kid, right? Like, what's the point of that? I mean, I could compare, but it was like probably if that kid's been training, like the Rotolo twins. If I say like, oh, I'm gonna show those Rotolo twins what real jiu-jitsu is like, because I've been doing it longer than they've been alive,
No.
I'm probably gonna be in for a frustrating experience. Getting my butt whipped.
That's your fault for not properly leaving your ego at the door.
Well, I mean, that happens constantly. That is constant in jiu-jitsu,
I was kidding.
right? As opposed to, I can go into that environment and say, like, I'm a fan, and I'm so blessed to be able to roll with you, It's an honor. It's like if I go to a basketball court and Michael Jordan shows up, I say, hey, I'm gonna show this guy how I ball.
How we do.
That's, security's probably gonna come, yank me away. But if I'm like, hey, Mr. Jordan, it's an honor, you wanna play some one-on-one, like, I'm gonna have fun with it. It's all about attitude, But I have to be realistic in setting my goals. That goes back to the realism point.
But then how do you find that nice balance between like realism and also like pushing the limits of possibilities, like actually dreaming?
I had a friend of mine at Henzo's. I actually went to law school with him. Jason Lees is his name. Jason, if you ever see this, hello. He was at Henzo's for a while. He was a lawyer like me, and he's a pretty athletic guy, but he never really, did anything competitively. And then one year he started training like more seriously, and he wound up getting winning the qualifiers to go to Abu Dhabi. Right? He's just a regular guy. He's a regular, but he's an athletic guy, but just a normal guy. Certainly not a professional jiu-jitsu fighter or competitor. And he got to Abu Dhabi, and I think he lost his first match. But, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, if you set a goal, and the goal is like, hey, I'm going to train really hard and see how far I get if I just train really hard as I can. And I train with these guys. He was lucky because he had, a great coach and a great team. Let's say, hey, I'm just going to train like these guys, train how far can I get? And he got pretty far. Winning trials is a big deal. So that's like an example of it doesn't have to be like
Crazy.
I want to win worlds or anything. It could be like, hey, I'm just going to train with these guys and see how far I can get.
Small goals.
We're cutting off our heads.
I did that on purpose. So
Why?
They can't see me not put my arms all the way in the air.
Oh, Kevin. There we go. It's like the little,
Dang it.
It's like it was this. It was.
No one knew. It was fine.
And now they do. And now they do.
Don't pull the curtain back. Don't look behind. Oh. All right. Oh. Are you sure the goal setting thing isn't just something we tell ourselves so we feel like we're being productive?
I guess it could be, but If you have a sincere belief in the goal that you want to reach, then setting the goals, I think, is absolutely necessary. Because you set the goal, you set a concrete goal, and you say, like, I have to work this hard to reach the goal. Like, if you're doing a marathon, you know, there's actually formulas, they have programs you sign up for, and they'll say, okay, you're 4 months out from the marathon or whatever it is, I'm just making that number up. This is a system. You run this many miles, this many days, you have these many days off, you know, so on and so forth. And if you follow that system, you will be able to finish the marathon, right? So if you don't follow the system, if you just say, like, I'm just going to do whatever for these next 4 months, you know, you're probably not going to be able to finish. If it's your first marathon, right? If it's your 25th marathon, you can probably do whatever you want. But if it's your first marathon,
And that program
you set a goal. You say, this is my goal. I'm going to run and finish this marathon.
But when you subscribe to a program, right, what you're doing is you're breaking up your goal into even smaller goals, right? Daily tasks, daily
Well, that's
goals.
exactly right. Yes. And that's how you get things done.
Differentiating the problem.
You know, you say, here's the goal, here are the variables, I have this much time, I have to put in this much work, and that's where having a coach or some sort of system, you know, helps you out. It's like training for a fight. You know, they have camps, there's you know, so many weeks, there's so many things they need to get done every week. That's kind of like people ask, like, oh, should I go compete? And I'm like, yeah, you should compete for sure if that's something that's interesting to you. But like, set a goal, right? Like, okay, I'm going to go to the San Jose Open when it comes next year. You have a year to train.
It's funny though, because like when you ask a jiu-jitsu
Or
coach whether or not you should compete, like what do you think the answer is going to be?
Some people will say no. If you go to like an old school, like, you know, Elio Gracie school, you know, they'll say IBJJF is terrible. It sets all the wrong examples. This is not what jiu-jitsu, the real soul of jiu-jitsu is really about. You know, and they'll say no, you shouldn't compete in that. It's all about your system, right? It's all about who's your instructor.
But that's not like don't compete at all. That's
I mean, I'm not aware if there's any. There might be in-house competitions.
yeah.
At the traditional like Torrent system, like the Horian system, but
yeah.
the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu system. But I don't know that anybody shows up. They might show up to like the no-gi, no time limit type of things, but I don't see too many showing up to IBJJF.
I wonder if all the garage blue belts like group together.
They go to
and
Naga.
tournament. That'd be neat. I would wonder how that would look.
What's that?
Like if you had a tournament of only self-taught blue belts. Like what techniques would manifest in that sort of tournament? What would be the winning techniques or the one? You
I
know,
don't think there'd be a lot of berimbolos.
it'd be interesting. I don't know.
Like
Like
you have a lot of those guys actually have trained in other martial arts. They might be wrestlers.
yeah.
You know, they might have some skills. I'm sure they do.
But just imagine the chaos of a whole group of people who have not had any sort of traditional guidance of any sense, of any like established group. I think it would be interesting, a fun experiment.
I mean, there's enough people or enough examples of situations where even people from established teams go and lose their minds that I'm not sure how much different it would be.
Do you think
Because you also don't have that kind of like clannishness, you know, maybe that you would have between, you know, like these schools that have rivalries, like that are really bitter, or that, you know, there's that coach a couple years ago who stormed out on the mat, you know, and attacked a competitor.
Did that go off?
I don't think it was Gavin.
No, he threw a chair.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it gets so heated.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that being part of a structured, you know, traditional team is necessarily a guarantee against, you know, foolishness and chaos.
I wonder if like what would be considered the fundamental techniques would rise to the top.
I mean, everybody knows that Elio had a complete system. It's like the 60, whatever it is.
But it's also like a group of people who have studied the same curriculum. So they all know each other's tricks, right? So it's not like the original Elio where it was the family versus a bunch of people who had never seen stuff before.
Well, but I don't know that that was ever true.
I mean, they fought good people. I'm not saying they only fought.
They often fought people who they trained with them and then went off on their own, you know, and did their own thing. And of course, they didn't invent jiu-jitsu by themselves. I mean, there were
Judoka.
no, but there were also other jiu-jitsu, you know, schools in Brazil. You know, there were 3 or 4 other guys. There was Fadas,
Father. Yeah.
or Fada, right?
Yeah,
That's,
he doesn't count.
yes, he does. What are you talking about?
Who is he? I've never heard
He
of
wasn't. I mean, he's the man. Osvaldo Fada. That's GFT, right?
What was GFT?
I think GFT is a.
Gracie Fight Team? No.
I think that's a. I don't think it stands for Gracie.
What's the G
Fight
stand
Team.
for? That's the only
Global or something.
global.
No, my understanding was that they were lineage, like Adolfo Vieira. There's no Gracie lineage in
Oh,
his.
really?
He's a Fada guy.
Interesting.
So
I'm gonna do more push-ups, and then I'm gonna do some show-outs.
can I throw the medicine ball at you?
Let me fix my hair first. Yeah, sure.
I want to see. We actually have had some people watching these videos. I don't know how long they've been watching because I haven't looked at the metrics. But if you're watching these videos, even if it's for a minute, make a comment. Let us know what's up.
Acknowledge us.
Acknowledge us. You know. I'll repeat the offer. You know, we're talking about if somebody comes in every day, does this workout with us, and leaves a comment, then we'll. The
Yeah,
person who does the
someone
most
can-
gets a free year's tuition.
Yeah, whoever can prove that
You got to leave comments every day.
they're participating as well.
Maybe we should have them do 2 comments. You have the comment when you start to watch, and then the comment when you're done. There you go.
It's a good idea.
That's a good idea. 2 comments. I'm going to put it on Facebook too.
But like, you should do the workout because we do, not just for us, but to inspire others.
I mean, they're kind of inspiring me in a way, because I'm like, I'm going to show up because I said I was going to show up.
Yeah, I don't want to look
You know,
like a little beat.
Like, I want to, if I'm going to say I'm going to come in and just do 4 sets of whatever, I'm going to come in and do 4 sets of whatever. Next week we'll do 5 sets, and then we'll just keep going until, you
So
know,
we're strong.
until we're like the pyramid.
Till we no longer hate ourselves.
So, be like the pyramid. You got to put in the work.
I like the ball.
You know, well, you can be either one. Be
Enjoy
some
the
piece of
process.
woodwork wood.
Well, the pyramid
How much
was,
wood would a woodwork what?
the pyramid was never meant to be a metaphor, but the ball totally was.
I mean, the pyramid is a great metaphor. I love the pyramid.
I think triangles are inferior to spheres and circles, inherently. Angles, bad.
They just are.
I mean, of all the shapes with many sides, triangles are obviously the best, but
I kind of like, I like kind of the old D&D dice. I have a special place in my heart for those old D&D dice. So I like
dodecaedron?
the 100 sided,
Dodecaedron.
or the 20 side. And we get the 20, the 30, and somebody there was a 50, and then there's like the snow globe 100 sided. I would love to get. I'm sure they have it. I'm gonna go look it up after this. The 100 sided die. I'm just gonna go get one.
I've been getting into like tiling shapes for some reason. They've been popping up on my YouTube.
Interesting.
And triangles are one of the things that you can, make
Yeah.
perfect tilings with.
Yeah.
And I think pyramids are one of those things. you can
Pyramids.
stack
Be like the pyramid, guys.
Ugh.
Like a wedge, pointy at the top, strong at the bottom.
Also, be careful.
Don't fall on your pyramid.
Yeah, don't fall on your pyramid.
That is pointy. That will leave a mark for
I
sure.
actually made sure not to hone the edge on that because
Well, you can make your edges sharp too.
yeah. Anyway, be careful.
I like the rotating sphere. I'm gonna get a rotating sphere
That's a pyramid.
graphic. Nice sphere. You see, you messed me up with your sphere.
The sphere is.
Speak.
It's not a sphere. It's an oblong sphere.
Remember, look at this. You got the triangle, and then this is the water. You don't see. You just see that little tip. but you want to make sure you have a strong base. That's what's, that point right there, that's what sank the Titanic. Titanic was going by, and he was like, oh yeah, look at that little thing over there, and then they all went overboard. But there was a good movie that came out of it.
It is unattainable.
That's not true. Unknowable, perhaps, but not unattainable. All right, guys. Thanks, guys.